Welcome to Arcade Life Group. Tonight we have a very special guest, a friend of mine, Mr. Blake Thorne, and he's going to be leading us in the service tonight. So thank you for joining us online. Thank you for joining us in person. It's something that we do every Tuesday night. We close the store at 5, and from 6 to 7 we do a life group and discussion. So thank you for joining us. Please come and join us live next week.
Well, thank you for having me, Mr. Travis. Me and Travis go back ever since he's been here, really. We were going to Black Shirt Church of God together, and we have become friends and friends with his family. And he was sharing with me about this opportunity, and I've kind of got to watch as his Save Toys has kind of grew and kind of morphed into this and everything, and uh and I believe, as we've been in touch and as we've talked, that the message that the Lord's laid on my heart goes right in with it. So if I'm not talking to anybody else, I believe I'm talking to you tonight, Travis, because you shared some things with me and some, you know, things that you see and things that you can envision and where you want to see this thing become. And I bet about any amount of money that when you started your Save Toys and you started, making your videos, and when you come up with your slogan that I've always loved it, if you like it, collect it. That's always hit with me, and I was always like, man, that is awesome. Keep going with that, hang on to that, because it resonates with me, and I think it does with a lot of people. But I bet you never thought whenever you first started in that and it first clicked off in your heart and started dreaming it, that you saw this. And I bet even from where God's going to take it, that when you get there, we'll be able to have this same conversation and be like, Travis, I bet you never saw it here. And I bet that you'll be able to say, nope, I sure didn't. And actually, so this is my first time coming and being a part, but Mr. Travis has done asked me to be a part before. But I've been I was blessed, and I was able to go and take my family, and we was able to go to Alaska for, they were there for 5 weeks, I was there for 6. And was there working and everything, and so I wasn't able to be here for a lot of the stuff that he had coming, and he wanted me to be here sooner, but now it's worked out where I could come. But as I was in Alaska, they have a bunch of little names for the place. Like you look at go in the shops and the t-shirts and stuff, and they call it Land of the Midnight Sun and stuff like that, because during the summer it never gets dark out there and different things like that. But I was kidding with everybody, and I was like, they really should change the slogan to Land of the Screensaver, because everywhere you look, everything's so pretty. It looks like a screensaver you see on your phones or a picture. Nothing. You'll even be standing there looking at it, at the landscape, and it don't look real. It looks fake. It looks like it's not real, like you wouldn't be able to reach over there and touch it, but you can, and it's there. And I got to taking pictures of everything, and I would take the picture of what I was looking at, and I would look at it in this phone, and I was like, man, this picture don't even do it justice of where I'm standing and what I'm looking at. And I got to thinking, and the Lord spoke to my heart, and as I reached, you're looking at these, you're standing on the side of a mountain looking out over these mountains and this big waterway, and you take this picture, and you're like, and you look at it like, man, that's beautiful, but it doesn't have anything on what I'm actually seeing with my eyes here, this whole thing, just as it reaches out. And God spoke to my heart, and he said, that's because you're looking at a snapshot. You're looking at a small section of what it is. And that really spoke to my heart, and I was like, man, how many times do we see something that we're in, and we don't see but a little section, whether it's a storm, whether it's blessings that we're going through, whatever it is, we're only seeing what's right there in front of us, just like that phone. When I take that picture and I look back at my phone, I only see what my phone captured. There's 1,000 more views and angles and acres and everything out there beyond what I was able to capture on my phone. But all I could see was what was on my phone. Man, this is great, but it don't do it justice, and that's because it's just a small portion of it. And we don't always see the big picture. We just see what's right there in front of us. We don't see all of it. And as I was thinking about that, and the Lord spoke to my heart, and I was like, man, that's a message. God, that's a message, and it's been so long since I've put one together and since I'm thinking. So I was sitting back thinking, and what came to my mind was Abraham. And I know when I think about Abraham, the first thing that comes to my mind is, when he took his son up on the mountain, right? But there's so much more to the story. When we look in Genesis and we're reading about Abraham, it's in chapter 12 that God calls Abraham out of his father's land, and he calls him out and he says, go out to a land that I'll give you. And Abraham at the time, Abraham was 75 years old already, and I know, during that time they were living a lot longer, but 75, that's an old man now. And God called him out to just start his journey, and he called him and he said, go to where I'll send you. I'm going to give you this land. And then Abraham has to take that word, and he has to step out on faith, and he has to go believing. And I believe it even says it in a place that I'll show you. See, so Abraham didn't even have a vision really of where he was going. He just knew that God said, go, and I'll send you there. And then when you look over a couple more chapters in chapter 15, God tells Abram, and it was Abram at that time. He hadn't even changed his name yet, but he tells Abram, he says that he's talking about how he's going to bless him, and Abram says, but how are you going to bless me? I don't even have any kids yet. I don't have any heirs. What's heir to what I have is not even, basically, I'm not paraphrasing, he says, not even mine. And God tells him, he says, I'm going to give you heirs out of your own, and the translation I was reading said, out of your own bowels, out of yourself, I will give you heirs to be blessed with what I'm blessing you with. And then he takes him outside, and he tells him to look up at the stars, and he tells him that I will give you descendants as numerous as these stars, just like the stars in the sky. And we remember that this is even a couple years after he's left, and he was already 75, didn't have any kids. So now God is taking him out of this place, and now he's telling him, I'm going to give you sons, I'm going to give you heirs, and a seed from your own body to take this inheritance. And then he even gives him something to look at. He takes him outside and he says, look up at the stars in the sky. You can't even count them, and that's how your descendants will be. And the Bible says in chapter 15 verse 6, and it says, and he believed in the Lord, and he counted it as righteousness of what he had told him. But still yet he didn't have any sons. It's a snapshot in time. God's done called him at 75, told him, I'm going to give you this land. Snapshot in time. Abram don't even see it. We come over to chapter 16, snapshot in time. Abram says, I don't even have anybody to leave any of this to. God says, look up at the stars. Snapshot in time. You don't have any kids right now, so you can't see what I know. But I'm telling you, I'm going to give you this. And your descendants will be as numerous as the stars. Okay, chapter 16, and this is his wife. She, Sarah, and I think it was Sarai, S-A-R-I at the time. God still hadn't changed her name, but she's seeing all this too, supposedly as his helper. and he don't have any kids, she takes it upon herself to get him some sons. So she takes her maidservant, takes him into Abram at the time and gives her to him, and they conceive and have a kid. Snapshot in time, now Abram's got a kid. Now he sees, I got an heir, but he don't see the whole thing, because it wasn't God. It was them trying to make it happen. So as we move and follow him into what he's got for us, we have to remember to believe and to wait. We can't do it ourselves, because when we do it ourselves, it's not right. And we see later that it ends up causing strife between the family, and Abram has to put them away. Okay? And then, so that's in chapter 16. Chapter 17, it goes on and it says that in chapter 17, God tells Abram again that he will be fruitful and he'll make him the father of many nations. And then he changed his name to Abraham. And then he told him as a covenant that he must, now he's saying, and from what I can tell up until this point, there hasn't been like a thing that God told him to do. Now there's been other things that happen, but as far as between my covenant between you and me, and what I'm telling you that I'm gonna give you, and I'm still gonna give you descendants, and I'm gonna change your name to Abraham, but your part of this is you must circumcise everyone in your house and yourself, and anybody even bought into your people must be circumcised. And then, so as Abraham is following the Lord and all, and he tells him, he was like, the seed that I'm going to give you, the seed that I'm going to bless, that is going to be coming up, is going to come out of your wife Sarah. So here again we see the snapshot of where he is in time, that God knows what's coming. He knows where he's going to take him, but he don't see it. It don't look like it. See, now he's got a son, right? He's got a son now. He's got a kid that came from him, that came out of his loins. But it's not what God said. It's not the way God envisioned it, and not what God put together for him. So then he tells him, he was like, you take care of this part of this covenant. And he said, I'm still going to bless you, but the seed I'm going to bless you out of is going to come out of Sarah, not what we already have going. Okay, and then you go over another couple of chapters, and even after that, I believe it's the very next chapter, the Lord comes to him in the three angels again, and they're telling him again that Sarah is the one where the seed's going to come from. And she didn't actually believe at the time, or she thought, how could I do this? And that's so natural for us, because 9 times out of 10 what God has got for us is too big for us. We can't see it, because again, we're looking at the snapshot in time. We're looking through our eyes and not his eyes, and seeing what he's seeing and knowing what he knows. So we have to go all the way to chapter 21 before Isaac is born. And Isaac was born to Sarah at that time, and the Bible says that he was born and circumcised at 8 days old, just like God had made the covenant with him. And it said, and the Bible mentions, it says Abraham was 100 years old. So he went from 75 when God first called him, and God first put him on this path, and steady telling him that this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, till now. I'm not great at math, but what's 75? 25 years, right? 25 years that God was telling him that he was going to give him seeds and give him a son, and it came 25 years later. And so if I had to title this or give it a theme, I would say, whose eyes are you looking through? Are you looking through yours, or are you looking through God's? And sometimes we're not gonna. Sometimes God don't show us everything, and we're not gonna see the whole picture. But is He telling you? Is He giving you the vision? Like He took him out and He said, "Look up." And you know, as I was reading on, I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, and I may be mistaken, but I believe Abraham passes away before he starts beginning to even see all his descendants and everything. He passes away and he dies. So he never even sees the whole picture while he's still on earth. And see, maybe God has set us out on a journey that we'll never even know. I'll never even know who all sees this tonight. Who all's ears it falls upon. Might not never even see any fruit come of it. But we have to follow Him, and we have to listen to His voice, and we have to do what He's called us to do, and believe Him when He tells us, this is where I'm taking you. And so Travis, I tell you, when we talked on the phone, I was like, I got a couple of things, and then you began to share with me, and I was like, yep, that's it. So I tell you, brother, just keep following, just keep listening to Him, and don't worry about it when you see it through the snapshot. That I don't think this is what it's supposed to be, or I don't think this is what it's supposed to look like, because God sees the whole thing, and He'll bring it around to pass. Even though you'll take a snapshot now and it may not look like it, people may tell you that's not what you envision, that's not what you see, that's not what it was supposed to be. But that don't mean it's not going there. It's a snapshot in time. Sometimes we have to wait. And I had some photos to show y'all, and I've let
Just hit that red button on top.
the red button on top. But
US media player. Hit it. Okay.
And what I want, and this is kind of what I kind of envisioned it as I was looking at this thing, and to kind of give you a visual maybe of what I believe it looks like. And these are just some pictures. Okay, when you look at this picture right here, this is on a train, and this is riding on a train in Alaska. This is something we were blessed to look at. And I tell you, there's a glacier right there. You're going to say, well, I see some snow, but I don't really see no glacier, right? This is a snapshot in time. This is all we see. And then you move over, and I know it's sideways, but you can kind of see some of the ice start to form up there. It's later on in the trip. It's later on in time. It's a different snapshot. It's not the whole thing. It's not what it's going to be in just a few minutes. It's not what it's going to be in time. But we start to see some of it come about. We start to see it take shape. Now we get to this spot. Now you can see it. Now there's no doubt. Hey, that's a big chunk of ice there. That's a glacier. But you see you got the trees kind of in the way here, and it's way off over there, and you can't really see it. And maybe it's not the big, beautiful thing that you envision, but you start to see it. It starts to take shape. You start to believe what I'm telling you. Hey, there's a glacier. Okay? Help me keep up with Travis. That was 3, right? We need to go to 4.
Yes, sir.
Picture number 4. Now we see it again as we come around the trees a little bit. It's starting to open up a little bit. We see it a little better. We can kind of tell, like, hey, this is shaping up for an awesome piece of scenery, right? But it's just a snapshot. It's still not there. Still not there. See, and sometimes God says, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be worth it. And then we get to these places sometimes and we think, man, this is awesome. This is more than I can imagine. But sometimes God is saying, that's not even it. It gets better. All right, that was 4. We need 5, right?
Yes, sir.
Picture number 5, and I'm sorry it's sideways again, but it's even closer up on the glacier there. And see, this is what I'm talking about. Man, this looks great. This is awesome. That's beautiful. And that's a zoomed in picture. I was actually able to zoom in just to get the glacier part of it. And sometimes we focus in on one thing, right? We hone in on this, kind of like Abraham just needing a kid. Abraham and Sarah, and they concoct this plan, and then they have this kid, not from Sarah, but of her maidservant. So they hone in on wanting a kid, and they're like, oh, we got a kid, this is great. And God says, no, that's not it. I have better for you. I have more. It's not over with. So we come out again, and now you can see it. Now you can kind of start to see it take shape. You can kind of see the whole picture as I come back away from it. You can kind of see the little natural valley down here where they say this one time.
The grass really is greener on the
Yes.
other side.
Where it kind of moved through here and made this valley, and you can see the river now that's coming off of this glacier out there in the distance in the mountains, and all the snow and the caps, and you're like, man. And I don't know about you, but to my eyes, this is a better shot because you see them. It might not be as close up on that, but overall, it's better. And I hope that y'all agree with me before we reveal the masterpiece that this is the picture. But to me, this is the picture. This is where you see it all come together. And see, this is what God sees. When He sets you out on the journey, this is what He knows where we're going. This is what He sees. And even though that we're on the journey and we can't quite see it yet, and we're still moving through it, and we're still like, is this it? Is this it? Oh, this is great. But God's like, no, we're not done. There's more. There's more of me. There's more that I want to bless you with. There's more I want to give you. There's more I want to show you.
Wow.
So then you get all of it. You get all the streams coming off of it, the big, just the vastness of it all. And to me, that's the picture, and I wish you would figure out how to get it turned sideways, but to me, that's it. That out of all those times where we're riding on that train and they're like, hey, there's gonna be a glacier up here, pretty good spot, and they actually will slow that train down where you can start seeing. And everybody's taking pictures, and I'm taking pictures, and I'm trying to zoom in. But of all of them that I got, that's my favorite. Because it shows everything. And I believe, and see, we're actually, so right along in here, you hit another mountain. So we're actually up on, riding that train kind of up on the side of that mountain. And you're looking down over all of that. And it's just massive and beautiful. It opens up into that. And that's what God sees. God sees all of it. He sees where He's taking you, and He knows what He's got for you. And He knows that the place that you're probably in now is not where He's taking you. It's not the final destination. And that's all I got, brother. And I hope that I hope it touched somebody. I hope it encouraged somebody.
It did.
To keep going, to keep seeking Him, and to keep pushing forward in your life and in your relationship with Him. Thank y'all very much.